What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs making yet another signing and what could be coming next. Are they going to have to make a corresponding move? I think the answer is yes, but that is because the Toronto Maple Leafs have signed Calle Jarnkrok to a 4-year contract. Now, his AAV is going to be, I believe, $2.1 million. We will do a double check on that. Yes, it is $2.1 million. Man, there's just been so many numbers being flown around that it's hard to keep up. But Jarnkrok is going to be a nice little Swiss Army knife for this Toronto Maple Leafs team, so we'll get into a little bit of an analysis here in a second. But if you are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. Tons of Leafs news, rumors, and updates, podcasts, videos, whatever you want to call it. That's what we do here. So let's get into this. So the press release states the Toronto Maple Leafs announced today that the hockey club has signed forward Calle Jarnkrok to a 4-year contract. And like I mentioned, the average annual value of the deal will be $2.1 million. Now, he is 30 years old. He split the 2021-22 season between the Flames and the Kraken, registering a combined 30 points, 12 goals, and 18 assists in 66 games, while adding 4 points in the playoffs, 1 goal, 3 assists, and that was in 12 games with the Flames. Now, immediately, the reaction on Twitter, and again, as I'm recording this, there could be another move coming, but the immediate reaction to this was, okay, Kerfoot's gone. I hate to tell you guys this, but in terms of an all-around player, Kerfoot's the better player. This is just a better AAV. You're saving $1 million, but I'm not necessarily sure that this is just a Kerfoot replacement, because Kerfoot is actually really, really good depth. He's a good hockey player, and I think some people have misunderstood his assignment. The Toronto Maple Leafs used him as a second-line winger because they didn't go out there and acquire a second-line winger. Kerfoot is a really good defensive centerman who usually plays on the third line. He is a very, very good depth piece. He's an expensive depth piece, but if you want to win, you have to pay. And with Kerfoot, it made sense on the third line, but he's been pushed up in the lineup because the Toronto Maple Leafs didn't have a capable top 6 winger that was going to be able to play with Tavares and Nylander consistently. Now, I will say, Dom Lucian posts some really good stuff, and he's talking about basically the projection of Calle Jarnkrok and how he could be, effective or ineffective. But as you can see, he's projecting that Jarnkrok is going to be taking a step down and that he's not exactly going to be, projecting up. He's going to be projecting down. He's entering his 30s, and the guy doesn't put up a ton of points. But the good thing about it is that he's going to be playing on a better team. He was on Calgary briefly and played pretty well, but like in terms of his overall numbers, he was playing with the Seattle Kraken and they weren't as good. So you have to take that into consideration. And I don't think Jarnkrok's going to be a top 6 player on this Leafs team. I think that they're going to use him there when they have to, but I think ultimately they'd really like him on a third line role. For $2.1 million, that makes sense. Maybe that does turn the Leafs into trading Kerfoot, using that money on a top 6 player, trying to find somebody to play in the top 6, or do they believe Nick Robertson could go up there and fill some of those minutes? But I'm just not going to sit here and say that Jarnkrok is a replacement for Kerfoot, because technically right now the Toronto Maple Leafs are cap compliant. As you can see, Bunting, Matthews, Marner. Jarnkrok, if you use him in the top 6 with Tavares and Nylander, then you have Kerfoot, Kampf, and Kubel, and then Robertson, Gaudette, and Simmons. Now, I'm not saying that this would be the lineup, but this is just hypothetically. Morgan Rielly, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin, Justin Hall, Giordano, and Liljegren, and of course Murray and Samsonov. But what you aren't seeing in here is Pierre Engvall, who has extended a qualifying offer, and Rasmus Sandin, who is still not signed. So if you take into account this $1.4 million, you could almost say that Engvall's probably going to be getting more than that. Do they trade his rights? Do they get rid of him before? Who knows? Do they trade Kerfoot and Hall and use that $5.5 million to sign Sandin and to sign Engvall, and that's what you do? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of question marks. But if the Leafs were to trade Justin Hall, go in there. I use LTIR just so that way it eliminates the space from up here. And they were to trade Kerfoot, they would have almost $7 million to operate. So you would figure they're going to sign Rasmus Sandin for this, sixth defenseman. They really want this guy back. And then you go from there. Do you sign another fourth line forward, or do you use that additional money and try to acquire yourself a top six player that you believe would be better suited than a Calle Jarnkrok, or a Alex Kerfoot, which I think is what they're going to do. So what do you figure that we're going to sign Rasmus Sandin for? So let's overpay a little bit here. So let's overpay. So I'm not saying this is what he's going to get, but let's just say he signs a prove yourself 1 year deal, which I'm just saying, regardless of 1 year, 2 year, 3 or 4 year, let's say he signs for $2.3 million. And again, I'm repeating, I'm not saying that that's a guarantee, but let's just say that's what he does. And again, I'm not saying this would be how the top six would look, but let's just say it looks like this briefly, right? That would give the Leafs $4.6 million to go out there and try to acquire another guy that they could fill in to this top six. Now, do you go out there and do you try to acquire a Sonny Milano? That's what I would think. A temporary good top six playmaking forward would be the best option right now, in my opinion. They lost out on Dylan Strome, who I thought might have been a good fit, but we'll have to see what's next. I think that they can utilize that money because I'm not even certain that Rasmus Sandin gets over $2 million. Again, I'm telling you, and I'm looking you in the eyes right now if you're watching. I'm not saying he's getting $2.3 million. I'm not saying he's getting 1 year. This is just hypothetical. I like to overpay a little bit so that way maybe there's more money to work with in the end, right? It's better to overshoot it than undershoot it because then you have less money. So it could potentially be almost $5 million in cap space to go out there and acquire yourself a top six forward. I think it's still very possible that the Leafs can get significantly better in their top six, but it's going to have to be utilizing Hall and Kerfoot as trade pieces. Now, Justin Hall is a serviceable right-handed shot defenseman. Teams are going to be looking at him as positive trade value. Kerfoot 100% has positive trade value. In real money, he's getting paid almost nothing next season, and you can fetch assets for that. His $3.5 million cap hit, sure, that's a lot of money, but the guy produced numbers. Like, I don't think people understand he actually was a pretty good producer last year for the Maple Leafs. He had 51 points in 82 games played. That's a really good secondary scoring option. But in the playoffs, those same numbers weren't there. But to be fair, Kerfoot didn't exactly have his best playoffs this year, and the reason why I can confidently say that is because the season before that, Kerfoot was absolutely dynamite with 6 points in 7 games. As a secondary player, that's not too bad, especially considering he had more points than Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. So what's his true playoff numbers? It's probably somewhere in the middle. If you're playing 7 games, he's probably going to give you 4, maybe 5 points. But at the same time, during the regular season, he provides you a very good secondary scoring option. And I'm not just going to sit here and act like Kerfoot's not a good hockey player. He was brought in as a Kadri replacement, and people were not happy about that. Kadri was my favorite player as well. But Kerfoot's role was to be a bottom six, $3.5 million third-line centerman that could play defensively and give you some offensive punch. He can do that, but his time probably as a Leaf is numbered just because of money reasons, and they can upgrade that top six if this truly is what the Leafs are doing with their bottom six. So we'll have to see. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I'm still kind of sick, so I do apologize if I'm like coughing randomly in the middle of videos. I can't get over this right now, so I do apologize, but I do love and appreciate you guys as always, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video or stream. Peace.